Boogla boogla. Yes, okay, yes, I know, the beard is gone, but it's okay. You know, the best thing about beards is you don't have to like them at first, but they grow on you. Okay. Alright, okay, anyway, the new JJK chapter is officially here, and there's a lot of stuff to deep dive into, so there is some super juicy information. So if you haven't already, make sure to get some snacks, get ready for the video. Make sure to subscribe, because we're on our way to 20,000 subscribers before the end of this month, before the 1-year anniversary on YouTube, which is kind of crazy that we're here right now. We're at like 17,000.1, which is crazy. That's a lot of people. But anyway, let's just get into the chapter. This chapter opens up with Yuta getting ready to head out and fight like the absolute giga chad that he is. And listen, I'm super happy that this sequence happened, because my man's has been catching strays like bullets, strays, just simply from sweating, from watching his sensei fight. Like, that's perfectly in character for him. So seeing him getting ready to go out and go and catch the smoke is a nice change of pace, and hopefully that gains some respect on his name. And yes, I am fully aware he would get his shit bodied by Sukuna, but the fact that he was ready to get up and have the smoke and go out for it, that's more than enough for him to gain some respect in my eyes. But him and Kashimo end up having a bit of a clash right here, with Kashimo telling him to sit down and then both flaring their cursed energy up at each other, which I think is quite cool to see happen, with Maki then chiming in and saying, if anyone's going, it's actually going to be me, and then her saying to Yuta, don't forget your role. If you go down, there's a good chunk of our insurance gone, meaning that there is obviously a battle plan in motion here, but it just seems to go a little bit deeper than just the group simply jumping Sukuna once he's weakened. I know a lot of people have been sort of speculating about like what is the actual game plan, because yes, it kind of does make sense for the whole gang to just go and jump Sukuna, but then also at the same time they would all kind of be getting in the way of Gojo, which is kind of explained here. What the plan is, I actually don't know, but we do have Yuji also chiming in again, and he is once again cheering Yuta on and telling him you should actually just go for it, it's necessary. That's what he says. And if you remember way back when, Yuji thought Yuta would also be able to kill him if he ever swapped out with a 15-finger Sukuna, and these two must have fought and talked about this. So I am kind of super interested to see how that fight would go now, because that's 2 times Yuji has vouched for Yuta to go out there and sort of be in the competition against Sukuna. So I wonder if Yuji is seeing something that we're not seeing here, and maybe Yuta is way more powerful than what we are expecting. But it is an interesting fight to think about. But moving on, we do see Meimei and Kusakabe basically telling them, listen, everyone needs to settle down. You don't even understand what is going on right now, and reiterating that Gojo's win conditions are completely and utterly different from Sukuna's, because Gojo only needs to beat Sukuna, whereas Sukuna actually needs to beat Gojo, and then he's gonna have to run the gauntlet with the rest of the group that are watching, with Hikari chiming in with something very interesting here, saying he definitely has an ace up his sleeve, and if we go out there, he may just use it. We all know, me and you, we all know that that is that mysterious black box that Hikari is talking about here, but he doesn't know what he's talking about, which without a doubt will most likely be effective against the group here, but against Gojo, it's obviously not a problem. The question still remains, though, what is inside that box? What has Sukuna got? For the rest of the group here, that is going to be a problem for them, and the ace in the sleeve, that isn't going to work against Gojo. Which is where Kusakabe then goes on to say there are still monsters like Uraumi out there laying in wait, which I'm going to be real with you, it caught me by surprise, because Uraumi has shown us just a little bit of her technique with like a maximum output dead frost or whatever the fuck that was called, and then she also used a little bit of it in front of the whole gang in Shibuya, so maybe she is actually more powerful than I've given her credit for, because yeah, I just deadass had her down as like some sort of like maybe Supreme grade 1, I don't know, but this also does seem to confirm the option that she is actually alive after Gojo's 200% purple, which is kind of wild, because if Uraumi survived that, then that means that they are extremely powerful to have just walked through that in a similar manner that Sukuna did. Either that, or they are extremely fast to get out of dodge, because I've been saying for the longest time that motherfucker is dead for sure. But we move over to Kashimo, who says how all modern sorcerers like this, how you're all missing the point. This is Gojo Satoru's battle, and no matter what happens, it wouldn't be right for us to jump in, which for me I think is a crazy show in difference for modern sorcerers compared to the past sorcerers, with moderns feeling like the same sort of mentality of a win is a win no matter what. Even if we're just jumping someone and it's a 3v1, it's a win. But the past sorcerers like Kashimo seem to believe in letting people have their fair 1v1, and whatever happens within that fight happens. So it's kind of an interesting contrast in mentals here. It does kind of reflect Kashimo's basically resolve to never use his technique on anyone but Sukuna. I mean, if this technique turns out to be something specific for Sukuna or is just a crazy powerful technique, the fact that he was willing to die against Hikari before using that technique just goes to show you just how resolved he is to the battle, basically. But we do cut back over to Gojo, where he is in a 2v1 against Mahoraga and Agito here, where Gojo lands a black flash on Agito, which heals almost instantly. Agito stronger than Sukuna, confirmed. I'm just kidding. But it doesn't matter because Gojo simply rips its tail off again. But Gojo then starts to think how Nu has now fused with the Great Serpent, Madoka and Morning Tiger, which for the Great Serpent and Morning Tiger, we actually don't know anything about their abilities. We saw the Great Serpent appear once and then Sukuna just simply bodied it, and all it did was grab him by the mouth and just flail him about. This is my impression of the set anyway. But in hindsight, it doesn't really matter because Gojo just simply turned Agito into a meatball towards the end of the chapter. And personally, especially since there has been such a point of theory crafting about Megami using Gasha Dokuro, so I do think this kind of cements in my head that maybe Megami isn't coming back, but I feel like that's a whole other video in and of itself here. But we get this nice little exchange of the Mahoraga slashing rocks at Gojo that are stopped by the Infinity, and I'm not really sure what actually happens in this panel, so maybe someone can explain it to me in the comments down below. But something slashes the floor and hits Mahoraga here, and you see Mahoraga getting hit by it and trying to grab whatever it is, and I genuinely can't figure it out, whatever it is. So if you have any sort of explanations, any theories in the comments below, please enlighten me. But Agito rocks up thinking that she is Shimothy Jenkins, and here trying to electrocute Gojo, with Gojo's Infinity simply just saying, nah, nuh-uh. And Gojo just stands there with his hands open and then punches the piss out of Agito and calls it a one-trick pony before thinking to himself, it would be a pain if this thing went and healed up Sukuna, so I should get rid of it in one blast. But also at the same time, we see Sukuna saying how this is going really well here, and all I need to do is make sure Gojo doesn't get enough time to fire off a purple, meaning Gojo's unlimited hollow technique was actually just a purple and not something crazy different we've never seen before, which is kind of interesting, and that's also confirmed again by the narrator towards the end of the chapter. But Sukuna then goes on to say how the purple that Gojo fired at the beginning of the fight had more than 120% output, and he likely used some sort of bind and vow, but we know, and obviously you know, that he had some sort of help with the boosting of this technique to that level, unless there is something that we don't know and there actually was a binding vow. Maybe Gojo used a binding vow to limit the output to 200%, but in exchange he couldn't use it for a certain amount of time, because the timing of saying 41 seconds seems oddly specific. So I don't know, maybe that's just like a crazy crackball theory. But Sukuna then goes on to say how he was only less than 4 kilometers away, and yet even taking this head on, all I lost was both of my enhanced arms. However, I'm not exactly in perfect shape right now, and if I take a purple from this distance, even at 100%, it will likely prove fatal, which does confirm Sukuna just took this shit head on. He just ate that attack. He just took it. Like, you call it tanked, call it whatever you want to call it. He took that attack. He didn't dodge. So fair enough. I owe you guys an apology because I said he dodged. I said he was going to try and take the attack, then realized the scope of it and dodged last second, but turns out he just took the attack. But this means right now Sukuna recognizes Gojo's win conditions, and so has Gojo. Gojo has also recognized this, but the problem here is Gojo was planning on taking out the Mahoraga with this unlimited purple that he's planning on charging up. So unless this unlimited purple attack is going to encompass the both Sukuna and Mahoraga, then I'm not sure, but Gojo and Sukuna now both know their win cons for each other right now, and that's where we're at. So this next attack in this next chapter is going to be the final thing. But we do get some crazy interesting ability from the Mahoraga here, where Sukuna basically says, you are my shadow, not Megami's. How long are you gonna make me wait? And the Mahoraga's Dharma chakra spins, and all of a sudden Gojo's arm is cut off, and the Mahoraga seemingly used cleave and dismantle on Gojo's arm, which is a massive development. But this raises a couple of good points here. The Mahoraga genuinely seems to be actively holding back against Gojo. We know these Shikigami are sentient. I mean, the divine dog was genuinely happy to get pats from Megami right here. Just when it was getting his head stroked, he was chilling. He was happy. And the Mahoraga actively smiles when in combat and shows emotions. But another detail I noticed here is that the Mahoraga's wheel has one glowing orb on it in this particular panel, and everything else is grayed out except for that one. So it might be the case that Mahoraga is kind of the ultimate offense and defense, being able to adapt to anything but also copy it and fire it back at the opponent, kind of like a full counter from Seven Deadly Sins. It could be something similar to that. But Sukuna finally shows up out of the shadows and kicks Gojo right into Agito, who is trying to punch Gojo in the head, but Gojo just tanks this shit like it's nothing. Like, the man literally eats this punch as if he is One Punch Man right now. Like, he's on his Saitama arc right here. But this triggers Gojo to get serious, and he just simply turns and looks at Agito and says, "You don't fit in with this crowd," while charging up a blue in his hand, and in one fell swoop ragdolls Agito with a maximum output blue and turns Agito into a Shikigami meatball. And this is where the narrator kicks in and says, in another 41 seconds, Gojo Satoru's hollow purple technique will once again make its mark on the old battlefield of Shinjuku. And we are shown this panel of Gojo looking the most serious I think we've ever seen him this entire fight here. This panel right here goes to show us just how serious he is in this fight. There is no smile anymore. There is no Gojo's wit or charm here. This is just Gojo's all or nothing final attack within this next chapter, within these next 41 seconds. And the fact that we have no break next chapter is truly wild. Like, Gege is chefing us up some crazy goodness right now. But that is everything from me. If you haven't already, please be sure to subscribe, because we are trying to hit 20k subscribers before the end of the month, before my 1-year anniversary. So I need your guys' help for that, because it's very possible. We're at 17.1 right. We're at 17.1 right now, and it's the 1st of September, so we could definitely do that for sure. But as always, I will catch you guys all in the next one. Much love, big kisses, peace.